The Lost Generation. It was a term given to the rebelling American writers that were against what America had become by the 1900s. The Lost Generation did not think that America was such a success because it was based on a non-cosmopolitan society. They expected to find literary freedoms in places like London and Paris, and so they moved there late in the 1930s. The Lost Generation wrote about things different from the common writings. The temporary emigration of American talent into cosmopolitan cities, such as Paris, was significant in two ways. It led to the desire of a cosmopolitan area to be established in America, and European countries began to recognize a distinctive democratic American culture. There were three major writers that helped boost the significance of the Lost Generation. They were F. Scott Fitzgerald, Ezra Pound, and Ernest Hemingway. F. Scott Fitzgerald. He may be the writer most closely linked with the 1920s. His works included Berners Bob's Her Hair, which helped create the image of the flapper, and Tales of the Jazz Age, which provided a lasting nickname for the decade. The Great Gatsby explored the lives of the rich and critically examined the values of the wealthy. He was very significant because his works examined and criticized the times and their faults. He was part of the Lost Generation because he lived in Paris in the 1920s. Ernest Hemingway. World War I had a huge impact on Ernest Hemingway. He was a writer that belonged to the Lost Generation. Hemingway was a war veteran and wrote powerfully about his experiences in the army. Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms was a major work of the era. Hemingway's techniques influenced the generations of writers across the boundaries of nationality, gender, race, class, religion, etc. Ezra Pound was often called the poet's poet. He believed that poetry was of the highest arts. His most famous work was the Cantos. In 1908, Pound traveled Europe as a journalist. His first book of poems, A Lume Spento, was privately printed by A. Antonini in Venice, Italy. He believed that Yeats was the most knowledgeable poet, and so moved to London, England. Later on, he would go on to write about many poems that related to Imagism. Then he gave up on it and wrote a few more books about later on. He was very significant because he challenged the common views of his time. These were major people that were involved in the Lost Generation.